Welcome. Happy to have you both here today. Today we are going to talk about how psychedelics and plant medicine positively affect mental health. And we have a guest here today, Bona Lee. And I'm going to read a little bit about psychedelics and mental health really quickly to give us kind of an intro. Our podcast is exploring the transformative potential of psychedelics in plant medicine on mental health. For decades, these substances were stigmatized and criminalized, but in recent years, there have been a growing recognition of their therapeutic potential. From psilocybin mushrooms to ayahuasca and MDMA and ketamine, research has shown that these substances may be effective in treating a range of mental health conditions, including depression, anxiety, PTSD, and addiction. Beyond their clinical applications, many people have reported profound personal insights and spiritual experiences that have had lasting positive impact on their mental health and overall well-being. So in today's podcast, we'll be exploring the science, culture, and personal experiences of using psychedelics and plant medicine to enhance mental health and achieve personal growth. Which leads us to our guest, Miss Bona Lee. I'll introduce you a little bit about Bona. She is a talented product manager based in Denver, Colorado. Her expertise is focused on emerging field of psychedelic tech, which aligns with her passion for improving mental health. Bona brings a unique perspective to her work, having made a decision to relocate from her hometown of Chicago to pursue her goals here in Denver. And we're in Denver, Colorado. Two of us are anyway. In addition to her professional endeavors, Bona is an outspoken advocate for reproductive health care and rights. Her advocacy is driven by personal experience, having been diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis in April of 2021. Despite the challenges she has faced, Bona remains a determined and inspiring voice in both her professional and personal life. Welcome, Bona. Thanks for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
Dersha, we have a couple questions we want to ask her if you want to get rolling.
Yes, I will. Well, thank you, Bona, for coming and joining us with this discussion, because I know you are a very busy person. And okay, the very first question I have for you is, why do you decide to enter this field?
Yeah, so really good question. So I will be honest, did not think that I would have the opportunity to enter the field. My expertise is primarily focused around tech and tech startups, more specifically healthcare. And back when I was in Chicago, I had the opportunity to relocate to Denver, Colorado to join a tech startup that directly works with providers who use psychedelic medicine for mental health and various therapies.
Excellent. Yeah. All right. And this is such a new field, and can you share with us, for people who are interested in working or join, this field, what are the credential or training that's required?
Yeah. So that's a fully loaded question there, because given that it's a new field, it's constantly changing, and we're learning more and more about psychedelic assisted therapies. With that being said, there are an avenue of fields that you can take. I am a product manager for a software directed towards providers that use psychedelic medicine for mental health. And so my background isn't very similar to, let's say, one of the providers who are administering or facilitating that psychedelic assisted therapy experience. Those kind of vary from, I've seen different therapists who have background in marriage and family therapy, or it's kind of a wide range of credentials you need. You definitely need to have some kind of degree or some kind of validated credential to be able to actually provide a psychedelic assisted therapy experience to an individual. However, there are various things that you can do. I know there are roles called trip sitters, and essentially they are individuals who supervise another individual's psychedelic experience to ensure that that individual's safety throughout their experience is ensured. Um, there's also an organization called the Fireside Project, and they have a psychedelic peer support team who essentially is a group of volunteers that go through an extensive amount of training to understand how to properly guide individuals through their psychedelic experience, whether it be positive or negative, and how to properly support that experience. And then on the flip side, going back to providers who use psychedelic medicine for mental health, with the recent psilocybin, I would say emerging market in psilocybin assisted therapy, there are very intensive training programs that help you become a psilocybin facilitator. There's a wide range of organizations that do that. One of the most, I would say, profound ones are the Changa Institute, and I think they are based in Oregon. So there are definitely some amazing accrediting organizations out there who are trying to help push the ball forward with that.
It sounds like a complicated process to be able to facilitate the therapy. Now you mentioned trip sitter. That's a very interesting term. Can you expand on that a little bit? What is a trip sitter? And
Yeah.
what's taking?
So it really kind of depends, and trip sitter could also be taken in the context of individuals who use psychedelics for more recreational purposes as well. But generally, when you are taking a psychedelic, it's safer to have someone who is sober by your side to ensure your safety throughout that process. There are, depending on the situation that a person is in, whether it be mindset, setting, when they are going through the psychedelic experience, it could potentially have some risks associated with it as well as some benefits as well. And so trip sitters are individuals who generally are overseeing that the person's physical body is safe while they're undergoing that psychedelic experience. And generally their mental well-being as well. But trip sitters aren't usually, especially in the recreational setting, they don't usually go through an extensive amount of training, like how the Fireside Project has their individuals on their peer support team go through. So yeah, although there are trip sitters in the psychedelic assisted facilitation context as well, who do go through training. And so that's kind of their main role there.
I see. Okay. Then that brings us to the next question, that how do the psychedelics in plant medicine work on the brain to produce their therapeutic effects?
Yeah. So with something like psilocybin, for example, psilocybin is a compound that's predominantly found in psychedelic mushrooms, and it's have been shown to have a wide range of effects on the brain. And when the psilocybin is ingested, it is converted to psilocin, which helps bind, I think it's serotonin receptors to the brain, and so it alters people's perception, sometimes their thoughts and sometimes their mood. And then also studies have suggested that LSD, a different type of psychedelic that is also being used in research, along with psilocybin, have benefits, can benefit conditions like treatment-resistant depression, major depressive disorder, anxiety, and even addiction. And then there is also, I would say, MDMA. MDMA's effects on the brain increases the activity of three neurotransmitters, which is serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. I might not be pronouncing that properly, so I apologize. And MDMA's effect on the brain is to kind of release feelings of euphoria and energy, and then also has been proven to help with heightened levels of empathy as well. So yeah, those are kind of just the main three, and I will like to just say that while more research is needed to fully understand the full effects of all these different compounds, plus some that I did not mention, and its effects on the brain, the research out there on the potential therapeutic uses of this has been proven to be very positive. So yeah.
That's great.
Well, it sounds really powerful. And what I have, I'm going to kind of summarize in more of the way I understand.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, we all respond to the world we're in with what we call our belief system.
Mhm.
And so it's like a filter, right? Our perception, our belief system. And it sounds like those, psychedelic medicine could really help to change your belief system during your trip
Mhm.
and then enable them to feel differently. Is
Mhm.
that what it does?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I guess in layman's terms, like psychedelics can really, depending on, of course, like how it's being used, and I like to emphasize that very well because as much as there may be benefits to it, there could also be potential risks. But by
Mm.
focusing on the benefits, MDMA has actually, there's been recent research on MDMA being used on individuals who have been diagnosed with PTSD, specifically targeted kind of more towards veterans who come back being diagnosed with PTSD. And given that MDMA helps, helps increase the euphoric feelings and energy, and also with empathy, it helps people essentially rewire their brains and their thoughts and their belief system based on their previous experiences, and really kind of expanding that. Similar things with, I would say, LSD, psilocybin, depression, anxiety. It's very similar effects, and also kind of different use cases as well for each compound.
Now, with psychedelic,
Mhm.
I'm going to use the layman term. Okay, we're taking the trip. How, how many trip are we taking? People would you would see the difference, like, or they could feel like, oh, their PTSD is cured.
Yeah, that is a very difficult question to answer because there's a lot of factors that play into effect there. I would
Mhm.
say the biggest thing is, you know, different individuals who have been diagnosed with, let's say, depression or anxiety have different levels of depression, anxiety, different experiences that might have brought them to that point. And so for some people, it may just be one experience that helps, get a little step closer to a step away from whichever condition that they are being treated for. Whereas
Mhm.
other individuals, it may take a few times. And that's actually what recent research is also trying to take into account, which is why it's very important to emphasize here on set and setting. Set and setting is short for mindset, and the setting or the environment that you're in. And that doesn't necessarily mean physical environment, but it could also be the music that you listen to, the lights being too harsh or too soft. It depends. And those factors could also play a big effect into how an individual responds to psychedelic assisted therapy or psychedelic treatment. Not to mention the experiences that they experience throughout the day prior to treatment as well, no matter how big or small.
It's a fairly engaging and dynamic process there. Now
Yeah.
we discuss the benefit of this. How about let's talk a little bit about the risk.
Mm-hmm.
the risk that associated with using this substance, and of course, the benefit. We already covered some of that, and how, what can we do, or or the facilitator or the trip sitter do to minimize the risk?
Yeah. So I did mention previously that I do feel like we're definitely getting back to where we were previously, prior to the war on drugs, in terms of psychedelic research and its effect on the brain. So we do definitely need a little bit more research to really fully understand and grasp the full scope of the effects that these psychedelic compounds have on the brain, as along with the therapeutic uses. However, there is the outside of set and setting, although I'm going to kind of touch on that a little bit, is you really do have to make sure that you are in the right mindset to go through this experience, because some of these compounds cause very profound and very beneficial, but also could potentially very intense experiences. And if you're not in the right mindset to go through that kind of experience, it will generally not be a very positive one. Along with setting, recreationally, psychedelics are used in the party space, and more recently, I would say the music concert space. And so, while as fun as that may be to use, compounds recreationally, just as people drink alcohol recreationally, it's also you also really do have to fare carefully, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you don't have a trip sitter and you are in an altered state of consciousness and you can't separate what's real from what's not, which could happen. So set and setting is a very, very big piece. Another really big piece of this that is actually more relevant in the recreational space as opposed to the research space is certain harm reduction practices, which could be trip sitting, but it could also cover testing your substances, making sure that if you are taking MDMA, making sure that it is MDMA and that it's not, cut with things like fentanyl, which is extremely fatal to individuals. And so that's definitely a hard conversation for some people to have, but it's very, very important to highlight that importance. And then the third thing that I kind of want to highlight is predominantly more present in the MDMA, with the MDMA compound. However, long-term use of MDMA and consistent use of MDMA has been linked to reduced serotonin levels, which can have certain negative impacts on mood and could potentially, have negative effects like depression, anxiety, and even memory impairments. And so with anything, it's important to not overdo anything and be very cautious and mindful about how you're using these compounds.
Now, I'm curious, okay, because there's, this modality existing for, the health treatment. So, for instance, if I have, PTSD and I'm seeing a psychiatrist, I'm seeing therapies to help me. I actually two questions. One question is, at what point that who will be guiding me to explore using psychedelic drug, and also how does this psychedelic plant medicine compare with other type of health treatment in their role?
Yeah, so currently I would say the main forms of mental health treatment out there, generally, if we're talking about medication, it's SSRIs, so antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, and then along with talk therapy, which is predominantly when you go in to see a therapist and kind of talk through some of the things that you've experienced previously. And so with that, I do think that those can be effective mental health treatments for certain individuals. However, SSRIs and talk therapy may not be what someone with treatment-resistant depression or major depressive disorder, like very severe levels of depression and anxiety, that may not be enough for those individuals. And with that being said, even if it isn't on the extreme scale of things, there are still individuals who maybe don't have, maybe it's time too, right? Like if it's a compound if it's a very profound, intense compound that can help you come to these realizations in the matter of 1 or 2 sessions, as opposed to weeks and months and years of talk therapy,
Right.
we shouldn't close that solution off to any individual, because I am of the opinion that psychedelic medicine should be accessible to all.
Yeah.
I agree. Yes.
Certainly
yes.
It's helped many people. So do you have any of your own personal experiences with psychedelics?
Yeah. So with my endometriosis, that endometriosis is a full body inflammatory condition that is generally linked to issues like infertility and things like that. And psychedelics has actually helped me, specifically psilocybin, has helped me come to a realization, not necessarily where it's provided a solution, but more so kind of coming to terms with, I have it, it's okay. My life might look different than what I thought it would look like 10 years ago, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And, coming to terms with that. And psilocybin has actually also been used in certain organizations in Canada to help terminal patients come to terms with their end of life diagnosis as well.
Wow.
But yeah, with that also being said, is MDMA has played a big factor in my life as well. Having gone through some experiences of like sexual assault, MDMA has actually helped come to terms with kind of that physical boundaries and with empathy and anxiety around being close to certain types of people as well. So with both of those experiences, I'm very, very, very passionate that in the right setting and in the right context, that it can do a lot of good for a lot more people than just kind of what current research has.
Yeah, and I think they're doing a lot to pursue it. There's some states
Yeah.
that picked it up without a problem, and just like
Yep.
marijuana, this is going to follow. This will be
Yeah.
the next round. So we're all kind of hoping for that. We being in Colorado, we're lucky that we have access to this stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a couple other states. Do you know which other states there are? Is it just
Yeah. Oregon is a big one where psilocybin therapy has been approved, and it's kind of, as you would guess, it's kind of slow moving a little bit, but I do think it's kind of gaining traction. I would see Colorado being next, as that proposition from last year had
Right.
passed. And then I do think I've seen on the news like Illinois, New York, I
Wow.
think New Jersey even.
Wow.
So it's,
That's a
yeah,
surprise.
yeah, we'll
So-
see how quickly things
Yeah.
move along, but it's happy to see that forward moving momentum for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And I'm proud as a Coloradan to know that we start a lot of stuff here. So it's really exciting to see this move forward. Well, Bona,
Yeah.
thank you so much today for being here and talking about this. We hope this, reaches a lot of people and they can get some answers, and they're welcome to contact us if they want to reach you, we can put them in touch with you if they have any questions. But for now, thank you so
Yeah.
much for discussing this topic. This is just our 3rd episode. We're still pushing forward on different topics that work for all of us. It's part of our we are, mission,
Initiative.
yes, we can call it. So it's about connecting all of us together and providing each other with truthful information that helps us move forward. So anyway, thanks again, Bona. I appreciate it. And to everybody out there, feel free to leave your comments. We'd love to answer them the best we can. And you have a great night.
Thank you.